Prince Harry with new revelations about his fractured relationship with the royals during an interview with our very own Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes last night. He talks about the physical altercation he had with his brother, Prince William, over his relationship with Meghan. Anderson is standing by. He's going to join us in just a moment. But first, I want you to take a listen to this.
He was shouting at me. I was shouting back at him. It wasn't nice. It wasn't pleasant at all. And he snapped. And he pushed me to the floor.
He knocked you over?
He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
You cut your back?
Yeah, I cut my back. I didn't know about it at the time. But yeah, he apologized afterwards. It was a pretty nasty experience.
Do you speak to William now? Do you text?
Currently, no. But I look forward to us being able to find peace.
How long has it been since you spoke?
A while.
Do you speak to your dad?
We haven't spoken for quite a while. No, not recently.
Can you see a day when you would return as a full-time member of the royal family?
No, I can't see that happening.
That was an amazing revelation for me. He also opened up about his decades-long struggle with grief following the death of his mother, Princess Diana. The interview was Harry's first with a U.S. outlet in advance of the publication of his book, Spare, releases online in the U.S. here tonight. Joining us now, our colleague and also who did that interview on 60 Minutes of Prince Harry is Anderson Cooper. Anderson, good morning to you. It's good to see you. Listen, there are so many revelations here. My first question to you is, what stood out to you most about this interview, most revealing to you?
You know, I mean, I read the book, so it's 416 pages, and it's a very nuanced and detailed portrait of this man's life. And I think, you know, we all grew up watching him. All of us have seen Prince Harry and his brother from the time they were born, and we feel like we know who they are. And yet, when you read the book, very quickly you realize we don't know that much about what's been going on in the inner life of Harry and how he sees himself, and actually his relationship with his brother, which he says in the book has been on a different course since the death of their mother, Princess Diana, back in 1997. And that death is really the central event obviously in Harry's life, and he writes extensively about this. This is really a memoir in many ways about grief and loss and the trajectory, how it changes the trajectory of one's life.
It really, Anderson, came full circle. I mean, you started the piece out last night with William and Harry walking behind their mother's casket, and you ended with them walking behind their grandmother's casket, but how changed a relationship they had. And obviously we know, because you've put it out there publicly in your podcast and talked about it, you know, the grief that you've gone through with deaths in your own family. And I wonder what it was like as someone who lost a parent as a teenager, too. My dad died just a few weeks before Princess Diana, so I just remember her death so well. What it was like for you to hear him detail his grief in that way that we've never heard publicly before.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you know, when I read the book, I had agreed to do this interview, you know, before I had a chance to actually read the book, because there are all these security protocols to actually even get a copy of the book. What really jumped out at me is, you know, this is a story of grief and loss, and it is a huge part of the book, and it infuses a lot of the way I think Prince Harry sees what is happening now and his concerns about what is happening now. And I think that idea of, you know, the walk that they took behind their mother's casket, which was such a formative, I mean, it is the indelible image from the funeral in you know, early September of 1997, and that walk behind their grandmother's casket. And in many ways, it was a similar walk in that they were together, but they were apart. They were apart by grief back when Harry was 12 and William was 15. Harry he couldn't cry about it until his mother was actually buried. He couldn't even talk about it really with anyone for much of his life. And he had this sort of magical thinking in the years after she died, even up into his early 20s, that he thought maybe she was still alive. It's not that he thought she had faked her death. It's that he thought it was sort of a magical thinking, which occurs to many people who are you know, have lost somebody, imagining that maybe they are still out there, thinking you see them in places. And that's something that he believed, and he says that he had discussions with his brother about as well.
Yeah, I think we have that moment in the interview. It really stood out.
You didn't believe she was dead.
For a long time, I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, she would never do this to us, but also part of maybe this is all part of a plan.
I mean, you really believe that maybe she had just decided to disappear for a time.
For a time, and then that she would call us and that we would go and join her. Yeah.
How long did you believe that?
Years, many, many years. And William and I talked about it as well. He had similar thoughts.
You write in the book, you say, I'd often say it to myself first thing in the morning, maybe this is the day. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is the day that she's going to reappear.
Yeah, hope. I had huge amounts of hope.
And Anderson, one thing he told you was that he struggled to even talk about it, though, really, to other people about her death. Did you get a sense of why he's talking now and why he gave such an in-depth interview to you?
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways to look at that, and a lot of it depends on what you think about Prince Harry, probably, and his wife, Meghan. Look, he will say, I have been silent for my entire life. I've had endless stories written about me and people projecting things onto me and saying things about me. And this is an opportunity for me to actually talk about who I am and how I see things and the central role that my mother's death has played in his life. Obviously, critics of his will look and say, well, look, he and his wife have left the royal family. They've been accused of cashing in on their royal titles. They are, not just telling their story. They're they're making accusations against members of the royal family, which is part of their story as well, they would say. So obviously, people are going to see it different, ways. Obviously, this is part of a multi-book deal that Harry had signed with Penguin Random House. There was the Netflix series, obviously, in which were detailed more of the fracture with the royal family and their lives as a couple. I think the book, though, the thing, the focus for most people on the book, obviously, are the revelations of the drama that's been going on behind the scenes and the accusations back and forth. When you read the book, though, it is very much a memoir of this person's life and the full arc of their life, and really a story of grief and early childhood trauma.
Anderson, before you go, just Poppy talked about you losing your family members, and I lost my dad, my sister,
Same year,
my
right?
grandma, right? It's interesting because you never get those people back, but he still has his brother in his life, and that was a sad part to me. And then when I said that was the most revealing, when he said, I don't think I'll ever be a member of the royal family again, which translated to me as, I don't think that I can heal this rift. I hope that they can. But can you talk about that? Because his brother's still here.
Yeah, he actually says, he would make a distinction. I think the question for him was really a senior role in the royal family, living in England, working full time for the royal family as he was, that he doesn't see happening. He certainly holds out the possibility of a partial role continued in the royal family. He says that the offer that was made to this came out in the interview. We didn't include it in the piece, but just for time. He says that a partial role is still on the table. The original offer, which was living overseas for a certain amount of months a year, and then fulfilling duties for the royal family for part-time of the year, that is still on the table. There would still need to be a number of conversations and discussions and frank discussions that don't leak out before that would happen. So he holds out. He certainly says he wants a relationship he loves his brother. He loves his father. He says he wants a relationship with all of them. Obviously, that's maybe even more difficult to imagine right now, given the revelations he has brought forth. But he says he's not doing it in a hurtful manner, and he very much would like to have a dialogue.